Jerry Bull hears the news.
The senior engineer says, "Got some bad news, Jerry." And I look at him and he said, "The Comet's down." It's an emptiness.
I don't know what else to say.
You can't really describe it. It's just this numbness you get. And the next reaction, of course, is this something I didn't do?
1,200 kilometers away, a small flotilla of fishing boats heads off the coast of Elba towards the crash site.
At first, we saw nothing. Then we saw a flock of seagulls which were pecking at something. So we headed straight for the seagulls. And that was where the plane had crashed.
It's a harrowing scene. Bodies and debris float in the water.
It was a big shock. Every time we went near a corpse, we would shout, "Come over here, come over here," because they seemed still alive. Their eyes were open. But when we got near, you could see they were dead.
In total, 35 passengers and crew die on board Comet Flight 781. 15 bodies are recovered. There are no survivors. The dead are carried to a small chapel in Port Azzurro. Local people say prayers. Children bring flowers. The horrific crash is headline news around the world. The question on everybody's lips is, how could the most advanced airliner in aviation history just fall out of the sky? Was it a tragic accident or something more sinister? Paul Withy is an aviation metallurgist. For 6 years, he studied the Comet investigation and is an expert on this turning point in aviation safety. Withy knows that with no established protocol for air crash investigation, it was an epic task.
The difficulties they faced as an investigation team was to develop a whole new series of techniques for looking into a major air crash. And they had to really invent tests, invent methods of doing things as they went along.
But Withy needs to be sure that this landmark case actually did get to the truth. Now, for the first time in half a century, he will re-examine the vital evidence. If he discovers their findings are wrong, it will rewrite the history of air crash investigation. From the beginning, the inquiry team are faced with an enormous challenge.
In 1954, the investigation team had no black boxes. They had no flight data recorders. They had no way of understanding what was going on in the plane at the time of the accident.
Their best clue, the aircraft itself, lies at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. Without the remains of the plane, the team know they must unravel the mystery with the flimsiest of evidence. With little to go on, the press speculate that sabotage might be the cause of the crash. These are the early years of the Cold War, and there are fears that subversive communists may be responsible.
Sabotage, a bomb. I mean, that came up fairly rapidly, you know, it has to be. How did it happen?
A bomb could have been hidden on board while the plane was taking on extra baggage. It's only a theory, but if true, it would at least eliminate doubts about the safety of the Comet itself. With the pride and prosperity of a nation riding on the Comet's success, a close eye is kept on the investigation from the very top. Winston Churchill himself. If saboteurs are responsible, the investigators know they must come up with hard evidence. They know that Flight 781 would have been flying at around 11,000 meters when something caused it to break up and fall from the sky. The Italian fishermen provide a few clues.
I saw a huge ball of fire, rotating and plunging into the sea. It left a huge, huge cloud of smoke.
Captain Johnson, pilot of the Argonaut, deepens the mystery.
The radio went dead in mid-sentence. Everything just cut out instantly.
But it's the victims themselves that provide the biggest mystery. Within hours of the crash, Italian pathologist Dr. Antoni Fornari examines the bodies. Despite Fornari's considerable experience, he finds a pattern of injuries he has never seen before. The victims suffered broken limbs and damaged ribs, injuries sustained after death. But what confuses Fornari is that many of the bodies have fractured skulls, wounds he discovers that were sustained before death. He finds another puzzling clue. The lungs of almost all the victims are extensively damaged. Many have ruptured like an exploding balloon. To top it all, Fornari finds no evidence of a bomb blast. It's a strange, perplexing picture, and he's baffled. With so little evidence, the investigation hits a dead end. Concerned, Prime Minister Churchill summons his advisors and takes an unprecedented step. Churchill commands the Royal Navy to retrieve the wreckage of Flight 781 from the seabed. His orders are simple: endeavor to locate and salve Comet. The task, however, is anything but simple. There has never been a salvage operation like it before. The wreckage lies at a depth of 120 meters, and no one knows exactly where.
Today, if an aircraft crashed in similar circumstances, the black box recorders would have transponders and would lead the investigators and the recovery teams to the spot where the aircraft was. The Navy didn't have that information.
HMS Wrangler, an anti-submarine frigate, searches an area of 260 square kilometers. 3 salvage vessels are on hand to help. They're equipped with the most up-to-date technology, including an underwater camera and a deep-sea observation chamber. Then, on February 12th, 33 days after the crash, Navy experts identify the first piece of the Comet wreckage on the underwater camera. Divers descend to the seafloor. Over the next few weeks, small bits of debris are sent back to England for examination. Then comes a major find. A large section of the rear fuselage is located and brought to the surface. Meanwhile in London, the Comet fleet sits idle. BOAC hemorrhages cash at the rate of £50,000 per week. With so much invested in the aircraft, pressure builds to get the planes back into the air. On March 23rd, 10 weeks after the disaster, the British government give the airline the go-ahead to resume service.
At London Airport, a Comet airliner about to leave for Johannesburg was taking out extra crew members.
Press and television attend the relaunch.
Everybody was in high spirits at the resumption of Comet flight.
BOAC Chairman Sir Miles Thomas gives the Comet a public vote of confidence.
We obviously wouldn't be flying the Comet with passengers in it on service were we not wholly satisfied that the conditions are acceptable for carrying passengers anywhere in the world.
Wreckage from Flight 781 arrives in England piece by piece. Investigators identify and mark every fragment. In a hangar, carpenters build a wooden frame of the Comet aircraft. As the wreckage accumulates, they wire each piece onto this skeleton. Now, with the entire Comet fleet back in service, it's more important than ever to find the cause of the crash. The lives of hundreds of passengers depend on it.